His content.
Yeah. Oh. Well, I guess maybe tomorrow.
I'll try to come over like around like 10 or 11 o'clock.
Really?
Okay. I mean, I'm going shooting at 3. So I'm gonna be up by like 9. Might as well like
Technically, like if we were to find some way to attach him here,
then you don't have to worry about it moving.
not much.
More than it would just be like this motion.
Right, then we could
instead
just swing them out of the way here, and they're not fucking coming from behind at a stupid angle. Yeah. Had a little bit of a fucking technical difficulty there going into this episode.
I do enjoy that this is here, so that way when I'm like this motion versus this motion.
I have to acknowledge it because I love him, but if you would have seen the conversation I had with Joe earlier about what's going on tomorrow. Woo!
Oh no.
Joey had some explicit details, and I fucking ran with it. I love that motherfucker.
Dude, I'm so excited to go shooting.
Mm-hmm.
My dad,
He might podcast tomorrow.
He might.
He might.
But like later in the day?
I don't know.
Oh no. Okay, so the way that worked is he texted me, "Hey, are we still going shooting?" And I was like, "Fuck, I gotta call my dad." So I hit him up and I was like, "Hey, what time do you want to go tomorrow?"
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, "Oh, well, I work tomorrow." I'm like, "Oh, so, like, what does that mean? Like, we do it next week?" And he's like, "No, I get off at 1:30. So do you want to go at 3?
Mm-hmm.
When does it close?" I'm like, "It closes at 5." He's like, "All right, let's go 3." I'm like, "Son of a bitch,"
Okay.
because it's like that being in the middle of the day kind of sets it up to be like,
Mm-hmm.
like, oh shit, like that's peak hours of productivity is 3 p.m.
Right.
So
And you made a valid point, and I know it may not be something that everybody thinks about, but the valid thought in our lifestyle on the weekends is I need to make sure if I'm going shooting, then I need to make sure I'm not drinking before that.
That's important. That's an important detail.
That's a respectable detail that I agree with. So,
oh my god, I bought my dad a 30-30 lever action for
No.
Christmas. Fucking
oh god,
it's a Henry rifle.
is he shooting it tomorrow?
Yeah, we're shooting it tomorrow.
Is it iron sights or what is it?
It's iron sights. So we're gonna. So the goal is to eventually get him a vortex sight. And I bought him a Picatinny rail and everything, so that way it's like when he
Yes.
gets the sight, he can just add it on.
Yeah.
And Henry's so fucking smart. They put screws on the top, and then so that way you can just put the Picatinny rail on top,
Right.
and you don't have to like adjust it. So when you want to take the back off and just go straight to iron sights, you can just loosen everything, and then you're done. You're not damaging the weapon's integrity. You're not doing like
Yeah, 'cause
you don't need to get milled or anything.
It's super frustrating that on some of the older shit, like even my fucking Nagant, like we all.
Well, yeah, I have a 98. I have a K98, and I want to put a.
Yeah, me too.
I want to put a scope on it, but I can't.
Opticals would be super helpful.
Yeah,
for a rifle that's that accurate.
I have to buy an adapter, and it's
Right.
like.
Yeah.
And it's like the adapter kind of sketches me out
Yeah.
because I have to buy the adapter that I need is like $120 on top of whatever sight I'm gonna put on, and it's accurate up to like 800 meters. So I'm
Right.
gonna buy a good sight for it.
Provided it's installed correctly.
Well, yeah, there's Loctite, that whole deal.
A lot of it.
I was using my AR the last time I went shooting, and I have a Hollow Sun red dot on it because I love red dot.
Mhm.
Red dots are
life.
it's on my EDC. It's on my every gun I own that's not a historic gun
Mhm.
has a red dot on it, because why am I gonna fuck with iron sights when I could just keep both eyes open and I feel like a fucking badass? Dude, it's so accurate. Like,
It is. It's pretty cool.
as long as you're breathing correctly, you're pretty much on sight every single time.
You gotta love the way that the brain processes vision from both eyes.
Mm-hmm.
It's fucking incredible.
Well, it's even better because I have like a shitty eye. So like,
This one makes up for the blur.
no, okay. So when I shoot, I have to shoot with my left eye because that's my dominant eye, but I'm right-handed. It's because remember when I busted my eye open when I was like 17 years old? I don't think you would. In wrestling, my last wrestling match I ever did was at Deer Valley, I believe it was. It was Deer Valley, high school. And I got kneed in the face.
Oof.
And it cut my eye. It busted my eye open down to the bone. And here's the catch-22 about getting a really good doctor is that the scar isn't really there. But it did.
I can see that because it looks.
Yeah, it looks
you look
almost
great.
completely good. It's kind of infuriating in some ways because I don't have a battle scar.
Right? You're like,
But
I went through some shit for nothing.
excuse me. But the cool thing about that is the fact that I don't have a scar.
Right.
But it did fuck up my eye a little bit. So like, I wear glasses because this eye is bad. Excuse me. I'm burping a lot now. And so whenever I'm shooting, I have to use this eye to. I'll get back about the damage that fully happened there because it's kind of an interesting story too. But so like when I shoot a pistol, I have to like aim like that instead of like that. So I have to like hold it in a slightly different way in order to like stay accurate. And when I shoot a rifle, if I'm using iron sights, I have to like use this eye to like try to figure it out. But when I have a red dot, then I can just keep both eyes open and the sight does the rest for me.
Right.
So it almost is like a weird handicap that kind of benefits me.
That's crazy. I think I'm the opposite. I had a hard time shooting. We'll say when I went on my hog hunt, I had a hard time tagging hogs at maybe 80 yards with a red dot AR. You know.
This shooting range I went to, I was able to hit the 200 yard marker with my red dot.
Yeah.
And it's just a hollow sun fucking.
See, I was doing 275 on iron sights.
But here's the thing. I am terrible at using handguns.
Yeah, okay, yeah,
Like, I don't know why. At 30 feet, for some reason, a handgun, I'm horribly and I'm
at
like
30 feet.
At 30 feet, I'm horribly. Maybe it was 30 yards, but like I'm horribly inaccurate. Like it's absolutely insane how much better I am at rifles than I am. But I've also shot a lot more rifles in my life than I have handguns.
Well, we don't having a pistol is like the thing to do. It's like the thing to have.
Yeah.
Nobody ever fucking tells you how good you have to be with them.
To be fair, if someone's in my townhouse, like if I have in a position in which I have to defend myself, it is easy to just point straight and I have 13 rounds to go. So it's like
that's the idea.
That is, and I'm not ever gonna. I don't anticipate ever being in a situation because I don't got no ops to like have to aim critically with a pistol. I'm pretty good at like.
Well, I'm no professional, but per classes and technical legal guidance, they do suggest
you take classes. You get your
they suggest classes for sure.
Yeah,
but they suggest that you shoot until the threat stops.
Yeah, don't reload if the threat's already over. Don't reload and keep going.
Right,
but
shoot until the threat stops and unload. You were in fear for. We're not going to get into this right here.
I did take that class.
I love that class. It was very helpful. I don't give a shit how much you think you know about your CCW and gun laws in whatever state that is that you live in. Take the class. Education is not going to hurt you anymore.
My non-legal advice is that it is better to not have them testify against you.
On that note,
so this me busting my eye open.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually remember this day vividly. It was one of those days where I had to wrestle up. So I weighed 137 pounds, but I had to wrestle at 148. So I was wrestling. So the way the weight classes go is like you got like. Oh no, I was wrestling at 152 because it goes. So before Christmas, this is the funniest shit ever. Before Christmas, the weight classes are like 140, 150, 160. After it's 142, 152, 162, 172. So they bump you up another 2 pounds because they don't want you to starve yourself during Christmas.
Oh, okay.
You don't.
That's fair.
It's fair, but the way that wrestling works. You don't do that. You just starve yourself to get down to the weight class because now that if you weigh 142 and you can get down to 132. It gives you that grace period to be like, oh yeah, well look at me, like I lost the weight and now I'm here. But
no.
So I weighed 138 and I was wrestling at 152 when I should have been wrestling at 142. So I'm already, and like my natural weight at that time was 160. So I was already like, even when I was 17 years old, it was still like, I was still a bigger dude, or a smaller dude in a bigger weight class. And so wrestling 130, at 138, I was wrestling 152. And the first round I had was a bye, so I started like wrestling to like get like warmed up with a partner.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like 212, and he hit me in the eye, and I was like, ow, that fucking hurt. But nothing really happened from there.
That sucked, dude.
The next match I had, I was wrestling again. In that match when I was wrestling, I got elbowed, and I don't know if it was an accident or not. I don't remember like how aggressive the first match was, per se, like in terms of like malicious intent from both of us.
Right.
But I got hit, and in that match I started bleeding.
Oh.
And when I started bleeding in that match,
From your eye?
yeah, from my eye.
Yeah.
And I had to. They called blood time. They super glued it and butterflied it up.
Yep.
And then I got to finish the match, and I won that match. So that was pretty cool. I'm like, all right, well, I'm 1-0, and I'm gonna get this badass scar because I'm not going to the hospital. Who goes to the hospital? Like, who actually goes to get medical attention?
Right.
Like, the super glue's gonna work.
Mm-hmm.
So it got cut open at the end of that match, and it started seeping, and they're like, oh shit, we have to fix this. So super glued again, re-butterfly bandaged it up, and then they wrapped me like a concussion victim. So they put a patch on my eye and wrapped bandage around me.
Mm-hmm.
So I look like I was on the Soviet front in World War II. Like,
Fuck.
I essentially, like, that's what I look like. I look like I was, like, just, there was no extra men. So I...
Good luck, little soldier.
Yeah. So I go to wrestle this next guy, and this next guy was actually out for blood. Like, he saw that I was injured, and so he would consistently like rub his head in that spot and like elbow it.
He was fucking trying to
And
cause it.
he was trying to get a disqualification because it's easier than finishing the match.
Right.
And I was winning, by the way. It was the points were 5-3. It was like a takedown and escape, and another takedown on my end, and he had a takedown and an escape. And I went to take him down again, and when I took him down, the gauze went over my face.
Mm.
And so now I'm wrestling blind, and I'm like, I feel moisture, so I'm just gonna keep my head down,
Yeah.
and keep trying to wrestle. Well, then I hear the ref. So I knock him down again, and then I hear the ref go, blood time, and I'm like, that's not good.
Yeah. Shit.
So they're like, we need you to take the bandage off. I'm like, no, we don't. And then I moved it up. I'm like, see, I'm fine. And then they're like, yeah, we're going to need you to take that bandage off now. So we take the bandage off. My coach comes over, and he's like, what the fuck is this? This fucking blood time shit's bullshit. Back in the day, we used to just, ooh. And I'm like, ooh? What does ooh mean?
Can you elaborate, sir?
Yeah, so, like, he looks at it, and so, like, there was, like, 3 people. Like, the trainer came over, was like, yeah, that's not good. And I'm like, okay, like, you need to go to the hospital. And I'm like, what do you mean I need? No, I don't. Like, do it again. Like,
Yeah. Whatever you guys fucking did.
listen, I'm on a roll right now, and I'm winning.
Seal
Like,
it.
it's so I end up going, like, and, like, I'm throwing a fit. Like, I'm actively, like cussing people out now and, like, calling bullshit on it. And I look up, and all of the, like, the parents and, like, the other wrestlers are, like, looking at me like they're scared. And I'm like, why is everybody scared? And I realized, so I get my shit, and my parents drive me to the hospital. And I remember exactly what car my mom had too. It was a 2006 Sebring. And I go to the side view mirror, and I look, because I'm like, why is everybody freaking out? And I realize that you can see my bone. And
Sticking out of your forehead.
yep, just out there.
Yeah.
And that was the first moment where I was like, oh, that's why I was scaring everybody.
Mm.
Is because for some fucking reason in my brain, I was so pumped with adrenaline that nothing was gonna stop me
Right.
from the win. And I when I got to the hospital, that was when the adrenaline started dying down.
Started hurting a little bit.
It wasn't hurting yet. It didn't actually hurt at all that day. And I realized it was... So, when the doctor was stitching it up... Here. When we get to the receptionist goes, so what are we here for? And I'm like, I cut my eye. And they're like, well, how bad is it? And I'm like, I don't think it's that bad. And she looks at me and she goes, well, move the bandage. So I go like that. And she goes, that's pretty serious. Let's get you through. And there was a kid with a broken arm that I sat next to in the waiting room. And he's like, what are you here for? And so I showed him. He's like, that's worse than mine. I'm like, you have a broken arm. Like, there's no way this is worse than a broken arm.
Right.
So we go back there. Doctor, they lidocaine me up and everything. He starts going. He's like, hey, so do you by any chance do heroin? I'm like, no, doc. And he goes, well, then you have a concussion. I'm like, well, what do you mean? He's like, your eyes look like you are on, you are on peak heroin right now. I'm like, okay, that's cool. And then I woke up the next day and my head was on fire. And
how did he connect those two?
So when you have a concussion, your eyes dilate, and you act loopy, and you ask the same questions over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize at the time that I was doing all of that, and I was behaving more aggressively than I normally do. And I was, my eyes were like filling up the whole eyeball.
Yeah.
And those are all signs of it's either like a massive dose of heroin or a massive concussion.
Oh.
And from that concussion, I had it for a month and a half before I was even cleared to like be allowed to train again. And by that time, wrestling season was almost over, and there was no way I was going to come back. So that was the last time I ever wrestled, was cutting my eye open down to the bone on someone's knee.
I'm going to delve into something that could be potentially fucked up.
Well, I'm down for it.
We're going to take a hard 90 downward. Because of all the things that you have experienced in, I would say, considering the light amount of stuff that you've dabbled in growing up.
Yeah.
Do you have any concern with the potential effects of CTE in the future?
I think I would have already felt it.
If you think so?
But you know what? After wrestling, I think that's why I went down a bad path for a while, was because of like possible like long stage trauma or whatever they call it. Is
right.
Like because I never really cared about alcohol, and I never really cared about doing like anything until after I got hit in the head, and I was pretty much donezo with like, because I was like, okay, I used to be able to do calculus really well. Like I was in Calc 2, and
I do remember you telling me that, and I was
yeah.
like, what the fuck?
Yeah, like I was really good at math, and all of a sudden, like after that brain injury, like I just couldn't fucking do it anymore. And I noticed that I'm a lot more what is that called? Like my focus is definitely not at the level it was when I was 17. It is I definitely have a lot less drive than I did, but I'm a lot more prone to like doing something sporadically that's not probably like it wasn't in the plans, and I'm just like, well, why not? And like normally, like I'm a very, when I was in high school and growing up, I was always like on a path, and then like I completely derailed off that path. So I think I do have some sort of like sustained brain trauma from that, but I still do my best to like get back on the path. Like my my knowledge retention is fucking terrible now. So like I listen to like all this history, and I get like really into like listen to all this history, but I get like dates and like names and all these things confused that I growing up I never had a problem doing. And I think that is a direct correlation between that bad, because okay, when you're wrestling, like you get a lot of brain trauma, and the longer you do it, like the more you're gonna have it. And I did it for 6 years, and then I also did jiu-jitsu and kickboxing through that. So like I 100% have some sort of like sustained brain trauma from that. And I think that's the reason why when I was like 18, 19, 20, I was doing a bunch of stupid shit and I really didn't give a shit. Like, I have to tell myself now to, like, don't do that because you know how that works. Like,
you know, a lot of the things that you're saying, if I'm going to be completely honest with you, sounds a lot more like intelligent, educated response than it does. Yeah, and you have a lot of you have a lot of places where you can associate, you know, what might be causing certain fucking reactions, and I agree with you on that, but it also sounds. You grew up very fucking straight, fucking
yeah,
it's grade time, it's school time,
Yeah.
it's discipline time, and
everything was on a schedule.
but it just sounds like, I don't know, you went through your fun stage, and
Yeah.
and now
I mean-
you're conscious enough and you're old enough now to realize, hey, maybe I shouldn't pull my dick out this time.
Well, okay, so the thing is, like, it's not necessarily, like... Because I still have all of the... I don't know how to explain it. Like, I don't think I would have ever done that prior. And then, like, because that head injury was like a turning point in my life, as a way to say that. And the thing is, like, I have the intelligence to know what is good and bad and right and wrong and morally correct and everything, but then, like, I'll still act in the other way and catch, like, for instance, when I'm, like, telling someone a story or something, in my head it makes complete sense, and then, like, sometimes, like, the whole word doesn't come out properly, or, like, shit like that. Like, it's conscious up here, but it's not conscious coming out, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
and
it makes total sense.
And that's something that, like, I deal with a lot. Like, even at work, like, when I'm like, yeah, let's do it, and I'm like, what the fuck are my hands doing that, like, I deal with stuff like that, and it's I don't know how to explain it because it sounds weird, like, to where, like, my brain and my body are not fully connected together.
I kind of fuck with that because there is definitely times, like, even still to this day, I feel like there will be times in mid conversation where I will start to feel more like I would rather portray my thoughts or feelings by just making you feel them because I can't fucking come up with the words that are intense enough to deal with it.
Yeah, that's kind of what it feels like.
And
a
I'm
lot.
like, just feel the shit because I can't tell you a word for it. But that's maybe, I don't know if that's close.
It's kind of close. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But that actually reminds me of, so I've been seeing a lot of shit lately about
Hard left.
I've been seeing a lot of shit lately about, like, men's ability to clean and men's ability to, like, so
Ooh.
there's a large discussion about,
Elaborate. Yeah.
so okay, there, even earlier when you were doing the episode with my mom, I watched this thing where this it was like there's this thing called the ketchup challenge. I've never seen it before, but apparently it's a thing where you put like a dollop of ketchup on the counter, and you're like, and you ask your boyfriend, like, hey, can you clean that up for me? And then, like, half the time, instead of, like, just picking up the glob, they'll wipe it into the counter, and they're like, fuck, like, I'm trying to clean it up, like, you see me actively trying. And it's like, just, and it's like, yeah, it's kind of funny when men don't know how to do that, but it's also really cool when they know how to pick up a glob of ketchup. And it's like, but women are they just know how to do it. Like, most women are just like, yeah, I know how to clean up. And it's like stuff like that where it's like, we're held up to, like, different standards.
Yeah.
So, like, where was I going with that? I had another thought, and I lost that thought. It's like, that startled me.
Sorry.
They,
Facebook.
yeah, I just got a notification too. It's probably Facebook. It was Instagram. But, but they, like, men just aren't thought to, where was I going with that? Son of a bitch.
I mean, I could make
It was somewhere.
I can make my own assertion, but choose not to. I'd be more interested in see where you're going. That's interesting, though.
I want to know where I was going with that because it was somewhere. I felt like I had something there.
In my head, I'm like, I can clean up ketchup.
You probably.
I mean, I don't know.
Here's the thing, though. You've also lived on your own, so you probably have an understanding of how to do shit like that. Like, like,
I mean, the fact of the matter is regardless of what it takes, I'm gonna get it done. The end result's gonna be the same.
yeah, it just might take more effort.
Right.
But just also probably like the male mindset versus like a woman's mindset is like more efficiency and shit like that. But like, it doesn't really matter in the end of the day.
No, but whatever you're referencing to matters because now I'm curious. Now you have my ego on a fucking shoestring right now, and I want to know more.
Fuck, how do I pick up certain things?
Yeah.
I mean, like, okay, here's the thing, though.
Shit.
If you were to, like, spill some oil and you'd, like, ask your girlfriend, like, can you pick up that oil for me?
That's fucked up.
But, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's... I guess it's really not... It doesn't correlate really that well. Because, like, how many times do you have to pick up an oil spill as opposed to...
Ketchup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You should be picking up ketchup a lot more, so you should have the understanding of picking up ketchup.
Right.
I don't know. I'm so jealous. I'm so angry that I can't remember where that was going.
That's okay.
Men's mental health. There was a thing... I don't know why I went down the ketchup path. I think it was because I thought it was going to be an easier path to go.
Yeah.
But the computer fucking made me derail. But I've been seeing a lot of stuff about like men's mental health lately, and like specifically how men handle therapy, and the reason why men are bad at therapy, and it's because men were not taught to say their emotions; they were taught to show their emotions. So, also, I don't know how much out of my ass I'm talking right now, but
go ahead, just let it out.
But so men, when you're angry, you show like when men have a problem, the goal is to fix the problem. And when women have a problem, they tend to talk about the problem, which is probably way healthier than just trying to fix the problem. And a good way of a good example of that is like in a relationship, like a woman will tell you what's the problem is, and then a man will try to fix the problem even without explaining what the problem is in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
And like, that happens a lot, but apparently in therapy, because a lot of therapy is talking and not a lot of therapy is doing.
Right.
So there's like new thoughts, and there's like a new series of experiments going on about therapy for men where it's like, well, let's get them to like do something and figure out how to correlate that with the problem that they are really having, and teach them how to like say the problem without having to go deeper into the problem. If a lot of men don't know how to express how they feel.
Mm-hmm. I was just gonna say, have you ever thought about what it does to you when somebody asks you, well, what are you actually fucking mad about?
So,
because that's a scrambled egg.
The example that I heard that was really interesting was like,
God, I don't fucking know what's wrong.
If you get broken up with, it's like, well, how do you feel right now? And a woman will always be like, I feel like I feel sad. I feel
I feel heartbroken. I feel sad.
Well, the thing is, like, a man would be like, I feel like someone just ripped my heart in half, and it's like, well, that's not an emotion. That's a physical thing that happened. So, like, the way that a man talks about stuff is like, yeah, no, I felt like my leg snapped, or like they use a physical way to describe something as opposed to like using actual emotion to portray it.
Yeah. And
that's something that like a lot of men have a hard time with. And I can definitely see that. I see myself choosing like to try to fix something before I talk about it. And it's not because of like trying to hide anything or like trying to like it's literally just because in my head it's just like, well, I can fix this. And it was kind of like that thing where when it broke, it was like, oh, well, I have JB Weld at home. I could just bring it over. Like it's like my mind immediately went to like fixing the problem instead of like, oh wow, I feel really bad about doing that. Like that didn't come out first. It was, oh, I have JB Weld. Like
it's this is something that I've heard brought up time and time again, and I've never had the opportunity to professionally delve into it. And if I'm being completely honest with you, nor do I feel that excited about doing so.
well, no, because it hurts.
I don't understand.
You have to understand yourself before you start trying to understand everything else going on around you.
For the life of me, I do not understand why, if a problem is presented, why you would not want it fixed.
It's not that you don't want it fixed. It's that the collaboration between two people is... It's the understanding of like, oh, okay, that was pretty bad.
But you know what I'm saying.
No, I understand exactly what you're saying.
I'm telling you exactly what you just told me what a man was going to say is you have a problem, I have a solution.
But it's not entirely like that because, okay,
it feels that way.
Okay, but some things you can't fix with a solution. Some things you just have to talk about.
And this is right to the point where I disconnect.
Exactly. That's the point.
Yeah. Like not even on purpose. I just don't have a.
Okay.
I'm like, oh, Starship disconnect.
Here's a good example.
Halo's ring just blew up again.
Here's a fantastic example that I went through this week.
Oh god.
I went to work on Tuesday and I heard whispers and I was like, that's weird. And
I'm sorry. Like physically, literally.
Well, I mean, like other people around me talking.
Oh god.
And I don't care about things at work. Like I just want to do my job.
Yeah.
And hey, the whispers keep going until like around like 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, all right. So I go over to the homeboy that sits next to the hydration station because we always gotta have a fucking name for everything. And I'm like, hey, what's everybody talking about? I was like, oh, you didn't hear? So and so died last night, and I'm like, oh, okay. He's like, yeah, like provocations with COVID. I'm like,
oh no,
well, that's not fun. He's like, well, the thing is, like, he was already fighting cancer and this and that. And I'm like, holy shit, this is getting sadder.
Right.
And then they were telling me about like, I'm like, how does his family feeling with that? And they're like, well, that's the thing. His kids both died in the Hawaii fires.
Oh,
his wife died of cancer 2 years ago. His brother died of in a car accident about 6 months ago, and he was the last one in his family essentially. And I was like, oh, all right. Who am I going to be able to hit up to get my parts when I need them?
Yeah.
Like
let's move forward.
Okay, I'm not going to process any of this. I just need you to tell me, like, okay, so how am I going to do my job now that he's no longer going to be of service?
Right.
And, yeah, it's been really fucking difficult. And the way I've been handling it is, like, you know, it's kind of shitty that he died because I kind of need to get my shit. Like, I don't associate the fact that he died as, like, a negative emotion. I probably should. Just because, like, we've gone to a lot of funerals in the last couple of years. So
yeah,
it's like
it's been a rough couple of years.
We understand death and everything, but for some reason my brain is still like shuts off the negative emotion and is like, well, I got to get the job done.
Right.
Like I don't know. It was weird. Like, and now that I'm thinking about it, I still am like, well, shit, like earlier today I needed a bolt and I couldn't get the bolt for like 3 hours because no one was answering back. And I'm like, Why is that how my brain works?
I'm gonna take a hard left here, another hard left.
Yeah, let's go.
I posted a pretty evidently controversial reel.
That sounds about right.
I'm not gonna get into what it was. I did it for my own reasons, and I did it to figure out some stuff.
Was it the one with me?
No.
Okay, good.
No, but you just kind of were dabbling in it. And this conversation might go sideways, but that's okay.
I mean, that's what we're here for.
So part of the reel that I posted that people find controversial is quote unquote depression is a luxury.
That is. Which side are you on
and
that
I'd
one?
really like to get your take on it.
I don't don't think okay.
I'm extremely open to all angles of this, and this is why I posted it.
I understand that depression is a luxury on the aspect of you have time to think,
Right?
but
Well, that's different.
in my bouts,
Nobody's brought that up yet. See,
yeah,
that's a new angle.
But see, when I went through depression,
Yeah.
my depression was I'm not good enough, and so I battled for like a year and a half trying to prove what I thought was trying to prove to everybody else that I was good enough, when it was really just I was trying to prove to myself that I was worth what I was doing, I guess.
So I want to get into what your definition is more. I do, but for this moment, I want to delve into kind of more of what you were dealing with on the work.
What do you mean on the work? Like,
you were grieving appropriately for somebody that you may have not had a personal relationship with.
That's fair.
But you were also like,
I feel like I should have
you're like, okay, I understand, but
work doesn't stop.
I need to go to work because that doesn't affect my work.
Well, it did affect my work. I think that was the thing that was. I know what you mean, because he wasn't a friend. He wasn't like I knew what he looked like, but that was essentially about it.
Right.
And I just needed
that fucking sucks.
Oh yeah, no,
that sucks. That's like a prime example of having to shove something deep down inside of you. You know what I mean?
Well,
like
it reminds me that I'm just another ant in the hill.
Right.
And like, oh, okay, well he's gone. Who's taking his place? Because this train isn't stopping.
Right. I'm gonna get run over if this problem doesn't get fixed soon.
Yeah.
So
like
my depression in the moment and my grieving doesn't matter. Right?
Because that's life.
My grieving doesn't matter because you need your production to continue.
Yeah.
So I have to be that asshole.
It's crazy that there wasn't like a day. Like, I get it. Like, people die all the fucking time, this and that. But like, it is crazy that there wasn't even like a moment of silence to be scheduled for like, or like
no acknowledgement.
There was there was zero acknowledgement, other than people just being like, "Wow, that's really unfortunate." All right, I guess I'm. By the way, I was just the first person to say, "So who am I going to get my parts from now?" Right. It wasn't. Everyone else was thinking. I was just the first asshole to bring it up.
Right.
Like, but yeah, no, like that's what you do. We're just ants on a hill, and
but as a whole, then you take that to a bigger light, and you ask people, why are they responsible for being as insensitive as they are? That's fucking why.
Yeah, because you don't have an option to.
Because when you're at the place of where you have to be what you're trained to be, whether that's insensitive or sensitive, and then you're expected to walk around in the real world like you're this character that's going to be completely sensitive to every situation that gets thrown at you, it's fucking asinine. I think the place that we spend the most amount of time at, which is work, because you, just like me, we both work 60 plus hours a week.
Oh, I'm lazy. I only work like 45 to 50 now.
Listen, shut the fuck up. I think, and it's unrealistic at this point in time. In 2024, it's unrealistic to ask for any kind of a personal reflection example. I don't know what the fuck I'm looking for here.
Yeah, no.
But somebody to acknowledge that.
Hey, that's kind of.
That death is a sensitive topic.
Well, the thing is, like, even though I don't know anything about him personally, like, it was still, like, one of those things where it's, like, he was kind of useful in my life to a certain extent. Like,
right.
Even though it was for work, he was still useful in my life to a certain extent.
You guys worked together.
Yeah.
Correspondingly, copacetically.
For the last 6 years.
That's actually relatively impressive when you think about it. There's not a whole lot of people I can deal with for 2 years, let alone working with him copacetically for 6 years.
He's worked there for 27 years, and the last 6 years when I started working there, he's been helping me out.
Perfect. And now that he has passed away, you have zero option but to move on to the next number.
And I'm going to be honest, the next number is shit. I cannot get a fucking response.
He's like, I don't fucking like him. It's just bullshit.
But, okay, to go back to your question about how I feel about depression and whether or not it's a luxury. It's
a harsh outlook. I agree.
it's a harsh outlook, but I can understand the point behind it. Like I or the thought process behind it. And because the main conception, at least me growing up and me hearing about it and everything, is it the best example I can correlate with that is when I worked at the sub shop, they told us if you have time to sit, you have time to clean.
Oh,
And
God, I fucking heard that before.
I think people use that a lot with like things like depression, where it's like if you have time to think, then you're gonna be sad. Of course, you're gonna be sad. You're gonna, but I don't think that it is in that mindset. My opinion on the way depression works is if you're constantly, because you're thinking all the time.
Right.
A lot of people, like, I don't know, some people have the ability to just shut their brain off and go about life willy-nilly. Most people don't have that ability.
Right.
So
I would say the majority of people don't.
Yeah, like even if you're like working on an oil rig and you're slinging that chain around and you're doing yeah, you're having fun in the moment, but you have to stop doing that and go to sleep sometime.
Mm-hmm.
Like you have to eat sometime. You have to drink some water sometime. You're gonna stop, and then you're gonna think about like, is this worth it, or like am I doing, like, you're gonna think about not talking to your mom for a year. You're gonna think about like all these things. You're gonna think about that one time that you said something wrong eventually. Like you don't just forget things. And especially when like you have a traumatic experience, like you don't just throw it out. Like it just stays there until your worst possible moment.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times depression hits when it's the least convenient. Like I remember breaking down to my mom about how I'm not good enough for anything. And it was because I was working 65, 70 hours a week trying to prove that I was working 6/12s. And I was, for like 3-4 months straight, I was getting not a lot of sleep. I was still trying to balance a social life and a family life. And I felt like I actually was like never going to have a good job. I was never going to be anything more than just this fucking bum that failed at life because I didn't do what I was supposed to do. Everything I worked up for wasn't good enough. And it got to a point where that breakdown did happen, and I didn't have time to think, but it was still happening.
Right.
And it happened so badly I didn't realize I closed myself off to everyone around me. And I remember one time around there when I was like talking to my friends, and I was like, I mean, honestly, like I think that I would be okay if like, you guys weren't in my life. Like I'm not saying like I don't like you guys, but like I would understand if you guys just didn't want to be around me anymore. And
I felt that quite a bit.
And like, I mean, they're my friends to this day, but like it was one of those things where like I remember being like, no, I really do like you guys a lot. Like I'm sorry about everything I just said. Like I don't know where that came from. Like I don't know why I told you guys I didn't like you. I don't know why I said you were gonna, I need you in my life. Like you guys are actually like keeping me together.
Yeah.
And then I think a week later, my mom was like, what is wrong with you? Why are you so closed off? And I'm like, because I'm not good enough to be there.
Right.
And like that, it really took me by storm. And I think depression's worse when you don't have time. When you have time, it's like, at least I was able to like kind of like conjure up some sort of like sleep paralysis demon or something for it. I remember being so sleep deprived that like on the way to work, I would have a mental breakdown. And then I would go to work and just keep working.
Right.
And then on the way home, like I would have a panic attack. Like I remember randomly being afraid of something happening on like while I was driving, to the point where like it was probably not safe for me to drive. And I would just like eat something, go to bed. I would eat one meal a day. It was like maybe one portion, and sometimes I would just forget to eat because I would be working so much and just not think about it.
Right.
And like I lost like 50 pounds. I didn't realize where I was at in trying to be a better person. I was breaking myself down. And it took a while after that initial realization to like bring myself back up, because even now I still feel like I'm the one that has to do it. Like, it doesn't matter if I talk to somebody, and like, fortunately with my girl, I'm learning a lot with my girlfriend, and I'm very, very thankful that she lets me talk to her in a very what is that called, like a very sensitive way. And she lets me just kind of go through it, because that in the last year and a half, almost 2 years, has really done a number on my mental health in a positive way. But if someone were to say like mental health is a luxury, or depression is a luxury, I think that's someone that is probably going through something that doesn't yet understand what is causing them to have that problem.
The interesting notion of that exact statement is becoming fascinating to me, because I've learned just by exposing that one statement how many different options there is as to how many ways that can be perceived.
Oh yeah.
None of which I'm going to get into tonight.
Yeah, we're kind of cutting it.
Yeah, because we're going to spend a lot more time in here.
Well, maybe whenever I come in next time.
I was going to say, maybe we'll talk more about it tomorrow or the next time. I would really like to expand on it with you. I'm going to ask that question. I'm going to ask this to a lot of different people, because it's become a very recent... I didn't realize how diverse that situation was.
Yeah, depression takes on a lot of different ways, and it's very...
Right.
It attacks people in very different ways.
Those faces are what I want to see. Not going to use the word see.
I mean, you forced my eyes to tear up a little bit.
Good.
Like,
But, no, I am excited to delve into that a little bit more. I really hate to place it this way, but it tickles some nerves that I really want to hear more about. Not just for you, but I want to hear more about this from a lot of different people.
it's interesting to me when people get angry over it. Like when people...
It does to me too. Because
One way or in one side or the other. Because...
It's unnecessary anger.
Yeah.
The conversation in and of itself, it doesn't merit anger.
It's definitely like, well... Yes and no.
I was going to say, actually, now that you hesitate, maybe it fucking does merit anger.
Well, okay, I have to admit, when you first said depression is a luxury, like, I knew that...
You get angry?
My initial reaction was like, the fuck does that supposed to... Like,
Yeah, you piece of shit.
Yeah, but, like, then I'm like, I get what you mean. Like,
Yeah.
I understand the viewpoint of that, because I've thought about that, too, because, like, my thought process was like, am I not doing enough? Like,
Right.
I'm not... Why do I feel like I'm not enough? Obviously, I'm not enough, because I'm not doing enough.
Mm-hmm.
Because I have time to think about the fact that I'm not doing enough. And it's like, no, it's because I have to take a shit sometime. I'm
truly, truly excited to hear what unravels of this topic, and I'm looking forward to it.
Also, this is definitely a thing that I've thought of a lot.
What?
Like, what causes depression? Like,
Oh yeah, yeah.
what? Because I know it's at the end of the day, it's a chemical imbalance, but
This
that's too short. It's too easy.
yeah. That's. I agree with you, but it's too easy.
We will have to continue this conversation again.
This question and this concern raises too many different angles for me to not want to ask more.
Well, it's also an interesting thing too, because when someone acts out in a foul way, like depression isn't just being sad,
It's really not.
and oftentimes it's just a complete shut off,
Yeah.
instead of it being like portrayed as sadness or portrayed like. I remember someone being really angry, and I was like, dude, are you good? And then, like, it was, like, at the end of the night of drinking everything, and, like, they broke down and explained everything. Like, oh, you were depressed. Like, you weren't
Yeah, you're not fucking good.
happy with what was going on around you. And a lot of the times, a lot of the stuff that happens around you isn't because of like, it's the inability to process the negative things happening around you that you can't control.
Right. I mean, at its core, I would say you probably just nailed down like a solid vast majority of issues.
Yeah.
The amount of situations that incur in your life that ensue some form of panic, you know. We're going to get into it. We can't get into it right now.
No, this is a part 2.
Not tonight.
This is a part 2.
This is a part 1 right now. Part 2 is coming soon. We're going to talk about this fucking more. Because you just lit a goddamn fire.
I still have to eat, too, so that's fun.
Oh. Yeah, dinner sounds good. Is there anything you want to plug before we close out?
No, I think I'm still third-party minority on Instagram, but other than that...
Third-party minority.
But yeah, no, I don't have anything to fucking add to that.
It's all good, man. I appreciate you coming in tonight.
Yeah, of course.
And unfortunately, you're gonna have to do it again soon.
No, we will.
Because now we have to run through that.
I think this was the main thing I wanted to talk about when I initially got on here, and I think I've been skating around the subject.
Yeah.
And you bringing that up actually definitely like.
Well, I will admittedly agree that is something that's not easy to exactly just.
No.
You know.
And like
you can't
I said,
just tippy toe in. You kind of
in the last year and a half, 2 years, I've really been able to talk it through. My girlfriend's not my therapist, but she's definitely allowed me to have a therapy session.
Dude, having your spouse on your side to fight that battle with you.
It's very reassuring, and she's extremely supportive, and
Tremendous.
I cannot ask for anything else.
Tremendous.
Like, I can't ask for anything more. She's the complete package.
Wow.
But yeah, no.
For all the listeners watching, there's a third-party minority on Instagram. Keep an eye out for him. We're going to have this talk a little bit more, and I get the feeling we're probably going to get into this in a few different more episodes now that we've seemed to found some common ground here. We've landed on the moon. No, I'm just kidding. You all know the drill. Spotify, Apple Podcast, YouTube. You can watch video. Apple Podcast just introduced that they're going to be playing captions. What's
is that what Spotify is doing too, where like you can add like a little piece of
so on Spotify, if you're watching,
it's like a snippet or like a piece of like they're doing like Instagram stories and shit.
I don't know about all that.
Oh, okay.
That's not what I'm talking about.
Oh.
On Spotify, if you are watching the video and you don't have sound, or you can't hear, or you whatever the case may be, if you scroll up, you can read along with us as the words go by. All the lyrics and all the scripts are available on Spotify, on the app, and on the website. Apple Podcasts just introduced a similar feature. I have not physically seen it, but they are going to be introducing it in the next week. So keep an eye out for that. It's very important, especially with videos, and also a very important feature for the hearing impaired. I find it extremely beneficial, and I'm super proud to admit that. YouTube. We're on YouTube. Audio and video. I don't think there's anything for captions. But I'll do research and I'll figure it out. But anyway. Any questions, comments, concerns? You already know the drill. Me versus me info@gmail.com.
See you guys.
We fucking love you.